This is my peak. This is Gear 5, One Piece. Luffy's transformation into this latest gear was definitely one of the most anticipated, like inflating his body to enter this muscle mode instead of the usual, inflated balloon that he normally does that we're used to seeing him, and turning himself into a giant, literally, or compressing his body and shooting himself off platforms like a spring, like Bellamy did. Because honestly, if your body is made of literal rubber, these feats should be nothing but a stroll in the park. Apparently, the Gomu Gomu no Mi is a really special devil fruit, which is actually a mythical Zoan human fruit that bears the name of a god, Nika the sun god. Gomu Gomu no Mi. Honestly, when the 5 elders went off stressing about the strength of the gum gum fruits, I really should have prepared my mind for it, There were basically 2 things about the Gomu Gomu no Mi that completely perplexed me. First off, it's actually a mythical Zoan type fruit. In fact, it's a human fruit, and this is such a big deal. I'm sure you're wondering why it's such a big deal. Well, Paramecia type fruit users can awaken their abilities normal, which enhances their powers and helps them to shape and manipulate surroundings at will. Like Doflamingo did with his strings and Katakuri with his mochi mochi. Yeah, we actually made videos about Doflamingo and Katakuri, so you could check them out, of course. However, the Gomu Gomu no Mi, which granted is a mythical fruit, happens to be a Zoan type, which we never knew could awaken in such a way. Personally, I just assumed that Zoan fruits have 2 forms: the user transforming into an animal and the user condensing that powerful animal form into a half human, half animal form with improved strength and speed, I guess Luffy doesn't have those changes because he's already a human. And a human eating a human fruit isn't exactly supposed to change his appearance, all that much. But this fruit's awakening gave Luffy the ability to turn his surroundings into rubber. And you better believe that my boy actually did a ton of other stuff with this awakening. The second thing that really burst my head is that Zoan fruits have a mind of their own. And that again is another huge deal for the One Piece verse as a whole, because according to the elders, this particular Zoan fruit seems to have decided to escape the Marine's capture and had been doing so for about 800 years until the present known user, Monkey D. Luffy. Seeing as Joy Boy is essentially the awakening of the person that consumes the fruit, that means that across generations, Joy Boy will always continue to exist and the Pirate King will never die. Can I hear the drums of liberation? The awakening. So, the moment we've been waiting for. Here is how it all went down. But before we continue, please support the channel by liking the video, smashing that subscribe button and clicking the bell icon so you get notified about our latest videos, because we have a lot more for you guys. Alright, back to it. It all started during the incredibly tough face-off between the next Pirate King and the strongest beast in the world. Kaido's large bludgeon came straight for Luffy's life, and if you watch enough of One Piece, you better know that that attack connected so painfully that it basically killed Luffy. At least that's what Kaido thought. Funny thing is, whenever Kaido is facing a formidable opponent, someone always comes in and ruins the battle by helping him win. Yeah, of all the people to help, you decide to help a literal half man, half dragon who doubles as the strongest beast in the world to win a battle. Of course, this enraged Kaido, and just as he killed Higurashi, the shape-shifting woman that distracted Odin during their battle, he laid waste to the CP0 agents. Shortly after, this same Kaido that had fought samurais, the worst generation and their right-hand men, although Big Mom was part of that fight, but he also fought Yamato, his own child, and then Luffy, also with Momo's help too. And after all this, he still had enough strength in him to go downstairs and clear out the soldiers. Man, that guy is a literal beast. But not long after, Luffy's hair started to turn white, almost like a Dragon Ball Z transformation, if you know what I mean. And power just started emanating from his body, and of course, what would end up being the iconic Joy Boy smile slowly appeared on his face, which, I'm not gonna lie, caused me some major goosebumps. Even though it was an upgrade, Luffy still staggered seriously before he fully got on his feet, and actually wondered how come he could still move, because he still very much remembered the last killer smack Kaido gave him. I'm sure Luffy was surprised to even still be alive. So after he got on his feet, he started to realize how free his body had actually become and the level of power he had attained, and my man was just loving every moment of it, basically jumping and dancing across the rooftop. And guys, when he said, "This is my peak, this is Gear 5, I genuinely lost all my senses and screamed like a 7-year-old. At this point, Luffy's haki just kept emanating from his body. It was so powerful that he was actually the first person in the anime to do a solo cloud split. You know, other times that the cloud got split from those such powers when some really powerful fighters clashed, like when Shanks and Whitebeard clashed on his ship that time. As if that wasn't crazy enough, the soldiers in the battleground below just kept passing out from his immense haki coming from the rooftop. This confused Kaido, obviously, because he was sure that Mugiwara was dead. All of a sudden, a giant hand broke right through the roof and grabbed Kaido using what would normally be his Gear 3 form, and I literally just lost my mind. I watched that scene like 5 times before moving on, and believe me, there was a lot more coming my way. After he flung the giant dragon up in the sky, Luffy inflated himself, but it wasn't into the usual shape of a big balloon that we're used to, but instead it was a muscle form, like Chopper's muscle point, and in a very cartoon and animation-like way, he attacked Kaido with like a flurry of punches and made him dizzy. I think Oda was going for a cartoon theme, and trust me, it worked. He then grabbed Kaido by the belly, spun him around a lot, and super slammed the dragon multiple times on the ground and on random surfaces, all while he was just laughing as if he found everything amusing. And honestly, I can't blame him. Having that much power and freedom to do anything you want would make anyone super excited. Kaido, fully realizing that it was Luffy, was glad he did not get his cheat victory and decided to win the battle his own way. He charged and fired his blast breath at the laughing man. However, in a comical fashion, Luffy ran around and, I kid you not, turned the ground into rubber, pulled it high enough, and bounced Kaido's fireball right back at him. Honestly, this awakening is super powerful, and Kaido for the first time felt the full force of the fire he had been burning and blasting tons of people with, all the while Luffy just kept laughing as if it was all just so amusing to him. And that was when, you know, the animators did what I consider to be the best intro of Gear 5 that I could possibly imagine. It was filled with loads of flashbacks and got me really nostalgic because I watched a lot of those episodes growing up actually. Honestly, it was quite tear-jerking, but let's move on. Okay, Luffy and Kaido then decided to get right back into it. As Kaido continued to wonder how Luffy was alive, he became puzzled about what the Gum Gum fruit really was and how come it was affecting things outside his body while also transforming the shape of his body. It was looking like both Paramecia and Zoan. It seemed like a mixture of fruits. However, in the middle of his own thought process, he went straight and swallowed Luffy again. Problem was, Kaido probably should have chewed properly because his meal was still alive. Luffy in his Joy Boy form seems to be able to turn both living and non-living things into rubber. I mean, he literally stretched his hands through Kaido's eyes and forced Kaido's mouth open, then shot himself out with what he called Gomu Gomu no escape rockets. It was just like he was creating names for his techniques on the spot. Maybe he hadn't done a lot of those things before. You know, Luffy had his whole body blown as a balloon when he forced himself out of Kaido's body, which honestly must have been really painful for Kaido. He couldn't hold the balloon body, so he deflated like a regular balloon, and you've seen balloons deflate. They just fly and fly around randomly until they land somewhere. Now, this deflation made Luffy fly into the clouds, and in there, he did a technique I should have always expected from him. Gomu Gomu no giant, giganto. My man became a giant rubber man. Kaido saw this and immediately went to bite him with his dragon teeth. Although the bite hurt Luffy punched, then grabbed Kaido's horn and tail and did a hilarious move. Gomu Gomu no jump rope, and basically turned the strongest beast in the world into a skipping rope. Kaido couldn't take this anymore and gave Luffy a very nicely timed close range blast breath that blew Luffy off the top of the sky dome again. Then Luffy did another crazy thing, sort of like a Gear 4 thing. He spun his legs round like Roadrunner again, and this time he ran on air. Running through the air, he went straight to the skull dome. He then charged Kaido with an incredible punch, but the beast replied with a conqueror of three walls, Ragnarok technique, and seriously smashed Luffy's giant head through the floor and onto the performance floor, where everyone's eyes popped out from their heads, as no one had ever seen Luffy in that form or that size. It was really hilarious to say the least. Luffy pulled his head back, but he lost his giant form and lost a lot of power too, and then he fell on the ground weakened. It was kind of sad to see. At this point, Luffy's spirit was actually stronger than his absolutely beaten up body, but there's no cheating nature. Luffy slowly lost his Gear 5 form and became very weak, but we finally saw a weakened Kaido take a knee, as the pressure seemed to finally be getting to him after fighting so many powerful people. Luffy, thinking about all the lives counting on him in a very beautifully, visually entertaining way with lots of colors and lights, forced himself back into Gear 5, and the battle continued. Shivers. Tried to attack again, but kept missing the really fast rubber man, who was just fighting so freely, as if everything was a huge joke, as if he wasn't fighting an emperor of the sea. Kaido continued trying to analyze the fighting techniques of this man, as he had never fought such an opponent before. And I don't know if you can follow this, but Luffy then bounced the ground out of the ground and threw the ground at Kaido. This formed some kind of arc, which Luffy bounced around and punched Kaido square in the abdomen. Then Luffy did something I really like. He compressed himself as Rubber simply can and shot himself at Kaido at top speed like a spring, while Kaido prepared his spiked club like a baseball bat, ready to hit Luffy. But Luffy's movement in the air was less than predictable, and he punched Kaido's face straight inside, as if turning Kaido's face to rubber, sending Kaido flying a good distance into a giant rock, while Luffy just playfully bounced like rubber on the ground while thinking of a name for the technique he just used. Honestly, Gear 5 seems like a combination of each of the gears, plus the complete freedom to use his body as he so desires, whenever he wants and however he pleases. Plus, turning his surroundings and his opponents into rubber is a huge advantage, and I can't wait to talk more about the things he's gonna do with his powers, but don't worry, we're gonna talk more about it. We're definitely gonna keep going. We're not just going to go into manga spoilers here, so people that are in the anime can actually keep on moving and enjoying it. But as the battle climaxes, we'll release more videos. For now, this is it. See you next time. Stay tuned.